All right, Stochastic, here we go. It's your old pal Emac coming to you on a Saturday afternoon. Technically, it's not 5 o'clock yet, so we're going to call this afternoon as we have the NBA Cup today, where the third iteration of this, we're down to the semifinals. There is player incentives in the form of dollars on the line today. Pride is on the line. Wins are important in the Eastern Conference, and we've got a surprise, Wemby. Wemby's going to play today, Spags. So we've got a lot to unpack here. How are you doing, good sir? It's been a hot minute since we've chatted.
Yeah, no, of course, glad to be back here on the Saturday spot. Shorter show today, guys, so strapping for 45 minutes, but I think it's going to be a good slate. The last time that we had the Eastern Conference playing on one of the NBA Cup days, I finished on top of the 4-point play, so I think that it would be nice to have that again. Obviously, Anthony Black on the slate was mega chalk the last time Orlando played. He is coming up endlessly for me, but I think it's fun to have the two gamers. I like the NBA Cup. I like the games mattering a little bit more. Definitely made for weird NBA scheduling this week, but yeah, for a Saturday slate, Emac, I feel like this gives us a little more interest as opposed to the usual thing of like, oh wow, who's going to be out? Like who's hungover, doesn't want to play today? Like at least the games kind of matter.
Exactly. And that's where, let's talk about the macro view for just a minute here. Because what's happening is Victor Wembanyama is back, but he's at 11,000 and change on FanDuel. So and we're projecting him. Last I looked, I've got the screen up. Why don't I just look at this? We are looking at 26 minutes. So we've actually even ticked it down by one. Earlier today, it was 27. That feels about right. The coach said he went through a vigorous practice. A couple days ago, they were just waiting to see how he's responded. He's missed 12 games, so better part of 3 weeks here with a calf issue, right? And after we've seen so many players go down with that this year, there's no reason to push Wemby for anything, right? So it feels like, okay, they're not going to bring him back till he's ready to play, but they're also not going to overwork him. Could he get there today? Yes, via efficiency, he could get a 50 fantasy point game, right? A couple blocks, hit a couple of more of his threes than normal, and he's going to be there. But that's probably the outside or the upside parameter. I would say 35 fantasy points is a realistic floor-ish, right? Like that'd be a bad game where he still played 27, 28 minutes. And then somewhere around 40 is the median projection. That totally makes sense. It gets interesting because of the way the pricing is here, and then in turn for the Spurs, and in turn for the Thunder, with they have Isaiah Hartenstein is coming back after he missed 5 games, I believe it was, and they're fully healthy, right? Casey Wallace is there. The only person they're missing now is Isaiah Joe. So they have a ton of people. We've already seen that SGA and Holmgren have only played in the meaningful minutes, right? More than 2 or 3 minutes in the fourth quarter of half the games. They're 24-1. This is like the greatest team of all time. Even if they want to put the pedal to the metal, they run 14 deep if they want to. So it's not like they have to overburden anybody with minutes, or they could say, you know what, Alex Caruso, we don't really need you today, or what have you. So that's the real interesting part, is this second game. There's not really a late night hammer. there's not great value, but there are decisions, and we all have the same cards that we're choosing from. What is your kind of take for Wemby? Do you want to play him? Do you not want to play him? He's at about 5. Oh, I thought he'd get higher. He's at 2.9% on DK, and I think he's like 5.1 on FanDuel, 4.5 on FanDuel. So how much of him would you want to play? Let's just start there today.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting a flat 0 for Wemby right now. I mean, for me, he projects as about a 3.5x value at that 11K salary that Emac mentioned. My projection's a little bit lower. I have him at, 38.5. Stochastic has him at 40, but neither number is that good for Wemby. It's now a full strength Spurs team where you do have Fox in, you do have Castle in, you have Dylan Harper in, and obviously those guys, I think, are mostly going to be priced for life without Wemby at this point. Castle, think still borderline playable, but for the most part, these guys are really not looking like great values because getting Wemby back in, Wemby himself is not going to play enough minutes to feel confident about his upside. And, frankly, with all these guards in, I think he should be a little bit cheaper in general anyway, even if you were full health and able to play the full allotment of minutes. So, for Wemby, I think it's a stay away spot. I don't think it's like an IQ test or anything. If you play Wemby a little bit, I get it. It's a 2-game slate. If he somehow does hit that upside, and let's say SGA, something really goes bad with him, or you needed to get the pay up at center as opposed to getting it at guard. Maybe that's one of the ways that it works out, but it's hard to see him hitting, I mean, even 50 fantasy point upside at his price tag. And at that point, I think you'd rather just play SGA.
Yes. So I wrote the free article out there. I have decided, I hinted at it because I thought the popularity would get a little higher. And I thought once people started doing content and putting stuff out there, it'd be about 5% on DK, about 10% on FanDuel. We're not seeing that. I want to be double the field of him. That's not a huge statement. I'm going to be targeting between 5 and 10% of him, but I'm doing that to be a little different. I'm playing 150 on FanDuel. I'm playing 50 on DraftKings, and then no Yahoo today. So I'm going a little off the beaten path. But this is like what Ben always tells the best stories, right? It's like you need to get 3 things right for this to work for Wembanyama. So you're like, at each point, the odds get more stacked against you. Here, you said it perfectly. It's you're hoping for a not great game from one of the other expensive guys. And there's just not that many expensive guys today. So that's kind of the Wemby take.
But, SGA, though, this is probably the most competitive spot. Like, I mean, you mentioned it. He's barely playing fourth quarters in general this entire year. But, against the Spurs full-strength team, I think you're getting about as much SGA run as you'll get outside of the playoffs. For Wemby, that's just not the case. And you have SGA being cheaper as well. So it could have been priced better. Like, if Wemby were $9K, maybe you squint your eyes and you can get there a little bit more. If he were $8K, you'd be loading up on him. But right. It's just not really there.
Yeah, my thought, I put it in the article, I said, hey, if he's 10 or 15% less than he was today, now we've got some decision points here. Because it's still the same 27 minutes, 40 fantasy points, but it gives you a little bit of leeway rather than needing to completely thread the needle while on fire and juggling chainsaws. So there we go. All right, well, since we're hitting both sides of this game, let's just kind of go here. So we talked about Oklahoma City, literally 24-1. The team has said SGA essentially said almost to the word, I will be disappointed, or we will be disappointed if we don't beat the Golden State record of 72 wins. So this team is locked in. They're very young. They come at you in waves. They have, 19 games without Jalen Williams, and they are 24-1. The only game they lost was on the second leg of a road back-to-back in Portland. They played in LA, and then they went to Portland. They lost by 2 points. Otherwise, we could be looking at 25-0. It's absolutely crazy. But wait, there's more. Their defense is at an absurd level. Their efficiency rate it's almost unheard of, and it's even better than it was last year. Their net rating, which was the second best in the best or second best last year at like 12.1 points. I'm going from memory here. I think it's like at 17 right now. Now that'll probably slide back to 15 at the worst, but we're talking historic numbers. Their efficiency is in line with 2 other teams. The 2015-16 Warriors and the 95-96 Bulls. And those were the teams that won the 72 games and 73 games or whatever it was, right? It's absurd. It's beyond absurd. But what it's doing is it's because Golden State, because the Thunder are just so deep, it's hard to know what they're going to do. Oh, maybe this will be a little more to Lou Dort. Is there mop-up duty? Does that mean it's Cason Wallace? Is it AJ Mitchell? Is it it's just on and on and on. It makes it very tough to go with those guys. So I'm not excited by anybody on the Thunder here. Do you have? I'm gonna do show ownership and all that stuff here, but do you have anybody you want to call out specifically?
I think Jalen Williams is the most interesting here. I mean, he is getting owned roughly the same amount as SGA. Both guys around 35, 36%. I'm expected owned on DK tonight. I think for Jalen Williams, he kind of represents 2 things here. If he does have the ceiling day, you have a better shot of your one pay up option on the slate that people will, get something close to the results on SGA. If somehow you have Wemby, as we assume, not playing enough minutes, not being productive enough in the minutes that he has to, be viable at his price tag, SGA is just going to be the person that people get to kind of move off of that money, go somewhere, spend it somewhere else. So I think for Jalen Williams, if he has an outlier day, and I would say it's the same extent, Chet Holmgren, I'm getting less of, only about 20% for me, but I think a Jalen Williams price tag, his projection, the usage that he has too, and does historically, the frankly assist upside that Jalen Williams has had this year too. He's had a 33% assist rate to start the year, which is not the biggest sample size, but it's been a pretty good run out for him, where theoretically he can take possessions away by creating usage for himself and assists for the teammates. So I think for Jalen Williams, he kind of represents like a lot to be unique on the slate. Some above the field on him by a little bit. I'm with the field on SGA. But I think that Jalen Williams to me is the most interesting Thunder player just because of like a little bit of game theory built into him as a player.
No, and those are all good call-outs. And we look at him, he's been back for his 5 games. It was the wrist issue, so his conditioning's fine. The team's just been easing him into it. There's a difference between being in shape and being in NBA shape, right? We've seen that a lot of times with players. But he is the one that, because of this, he has a little bit more attainable upside on his current salary. It's really not. It's kind of like everybody sort of. Yeah, I'd be happy with 40 fantasy points from him, right? We've got him at 39 here on DraftKings, but it's not. You're not doing cartwheels. I like Chet Holmgren a lot, but Isaiah Hartenstein is back now, right? So he missed 5 games, so that kind of has the front court appropriately, or their salaries are semi-impacted by that. But it's a hard one to point to. But that's where playing 150 lineups makes it more interesting. That's where going down in the lower, the quarter, the dollar, the mini max makes it a little more fun on slates like this, because none of them are going to make you feel good, right? And we lose sight after. It's like the war of attrition, right? It's the value just disappears, and we get into the NBA finals after the complete insanity of the final tanking, and then or the playoffs, and then it's the conference finals where we're down to 2-game slates if we're lucky, or the semis, and then you get to conference finals and it's 1-game slates and showdowns, and you forget all that. We're just used to seeing, oh, I'll take this guy and this guy and this guy. There still will be something silly, right? Something silly has to happen, even though there are only 2 games here. Do you feel I can't even manufacture narratives? The money aspect of this, if you win the championship, the players on the winning team get about $530,000. The players who win today, or the teams that win today, essentially will be guaranteed just over $200,000 because that's what the losers get. And then the teams that lose today, they've guaranteed themselves about $100,000 per player. And then there's some sort of bonus money with the teams. I'm sure they get to vote some of it around or whatever they want to do, or give it to the back of the bench. But that's even hard to say motivation. And then last year, I had forgotten that Milwaukee won it, and they beat Oklahoma City. So,
yeah, I forgot that too. I feel like that's one of those things where you just, OKC presume cruise through all last year too, based on how they're playing this year. But they're arguably even better than they were last year when they won the title.
Yeah, just nutty. Just nutty. Looking here at the leverage here. So guys, we've retooled stochastic here. We a little bit of back end issues, but it got them to go off the archaic pages and the web of everything that we were doing that had been built on 7 years of foundation here. It's all streamlined. Everything's in the same spot. So if you see things, would it be great to have here? Put it into support, put it into the chat here, or reach out to us on Twitter. But we've got minutes, fantasy points per minute projection. The boom bust tool is now within this, right? We've got our leverage, right? Is it positive or negative against their expected rostership in tournaments, and where they are with their optimal? What are their chance of getting 5x, etc. We'll get the little instructions up here again, the breakdown of what each of these things mean, but it's nice having all this in one spot. Yes, like a bunch of people were saying, you changed everything, now I got to rebuild my downloads. Yeah, I had to rebuild my stuff to it, but it didn't take that long. If you want to see stats, it's up here now, just in its other page, because I like to download this and run it through things as I'm looking at various props and PRAs and RAs and all that, rebounds plus assists, points plus rebounds, assists, etc. As I'm thinking about what I'm doing at Portfolio EV. Hey, new users, click on the link in the YouTube description below us here, and you can get 7 free days of Portfolio EV if you have not yet utilized that offer. And then, of course, we also have Tails over there. We'll talk about them a little bit later, but the Tails is now on an app. Even I'm using it as the app, and I don't use my phone for anything really than otherwise doom scrolling and words with friends. That's about it for my phone. But even I'm looking at Tails on here because it's a pretty slick interface. So anyway, there's your quick ads. What else would you like to talk about for OKC? And then I will hand the baton to you to discuss the San Antonio side.
Yeah, I think the big three, it does seem like just being with the field on their ownership seems like the safe move. I prefer Jalen Williams, and SGA obviously is a pay-up option. Definitely a little bit lighter on Holmgren, but they all have the ability to kind of break the slate. Certainly if they do, really outperform and take ownership away, or take projection rather away from the other top two of the big three. For the rest of the bench, AJ Mitchell, Aaron Wiggins, I don't really think playable at their price tags, the amount of minutes they're getting. So they really didn't come up for me at all. Of the rest of the guys, Kason Wallace, Lou Dort, Alex Caruso, in the rotation enough that I think there were some exposure. Just it's a 2-game slate. You kind of have to try to swap around your value guys a little bit more. So it ended up with about 20% Alex Caruso for myself, a 17% Kason Wallace, 20% Lou Dort. Again, not guys that are super priority plays, not even really guys I have projected that well. Actually, most of them about under a 4.2x value. But because of the fact you just kind of need to fill out a roster, get different looks, get different combinations around the guys who actually have good projections, you're going to get a lot of Thunder guys. So the Thunder, too, like Emac mentioned, anybody can score. Anybody can have an outlier day if they are hitting on all cylinders like they usually do. So I don't mind getting whatever Thunder, but I do think Mitchell and Wiggins, the two toughest ones to get through because they're priced now for, I think, a situation they're not actually in.
All right, flipping it over here to San Antonio. Let's see what pops up. We've got Stephon Castle is the best optimal on FanDuel. When we look at the popularity, there's a whole bunch of guys in that 17 to 27 range. It's a factor of there only being two games, 4 teams in the player pool. If we turn our attention to DraftKings here, we will notice that it is Malakar's birthday. So shout out to him. Happy birthday, Malakar. I'm going to drop a link here into chat. We're going to fill up a contest here. If anybody wins the contest, I'm going to put into chat here in just a second. On FanDuel, it's a $2 3 max 100-person contest. Anybody wins that with the Stochastic Avatar, I will get you 1 month of all access NBA Sims in honor of Malakar's birthday, but it's got a fill to run. It looks like there's one it's got about 40 spots left. So I'm going to drop that link into chat, but there's our birthday bonus for Malakar. So shout out to Malakar. If we look at DraftKings, similarly, it's in the 14 to 17% range. So it's a sprinkling of San Antonio. Does anybody stand out to you?
On the FanDuel side, really, I think for San Antonio, they are all really efficiently owned, it seems, really. Not much leverage to be had. Obviously, the 2-game slates, that's not a surprise, but certainly it seems like Castle, like you mentioned, looks like the strongest play for FanDuel. Barnes also solid. DK-wise, really not getting a lot here. I mean, again, it's 2-game slate, so I'm still getting 10 to 20% of a lot of these guys. In particular, really not getting any Wemby at all, like I mentioned. Barely getting in De'Aaron Fox. Seems a little bit still overpriced for having Wemby back in, along with having Dylan Harper and also Stephon Castle. Vassell, though, coming up for me a good amount, 15%. Castle, I'm at 21%. He's really the one Spur I am meaningfully above the field on. But even then, it's only a few percentage points. But Barnes, Keldon Johnson, Harper, Champagnie, Emac, I feel like all these guys are kind of playable. None of them really look good, but you're just getting, if you're putting in 150 especially, you're just going to get some of these guys because you have to get somebody in that's not, again, the real rotational players. But the Spurs, to me, I just feel like kind of look all like literally the same guy.
All right. Oh, we're not going to talk about the Orlando game I see in chat. We got 24 minutes, my friend. We're going to talk all Orlando all the time here, just shortly. We just happen to start with this later one here, but don't worry. We'll get there. We got you. And I saw there was a super chat. I will not lose sight of that as well. We'll hit on that here in just a sec. But again, that's more or less the same assessment here. That I have. Everybody's just kind of appropriate. If you want to make stands, this is not the cop-out saying, salt the taste, go with your heart, let personal preference be your guide, all those platitudes I put in my articles where it's like, I have no idea what's going to happen. Nobody has any idea what's going to happen here. But they're all at kind of an equilibrium. So if you have a strong feel one way or another, this would be a good time to do it. And that's why I wasn't going to play FanDuel today, because I'm like, there's going to be so many tied lineups, blah, blah, blah. And like, you know what? I'm going to be different. I'm going to go get a little more Wemby. I'm going to do a little more something else just to change what I've got here. And we'll find out. We'll see if the Sims can help me. They helped me have a good night across 3 sites last night. But you guys should check that out. Get the stochastic Sims. Get the stochastic Sims. All right. In honor of everybody, let's talk Orlando here. So as we move to this will be the first game. This tips off at 5:30. We have this is the 4th time these teams have met already this season. However, there have been missing key players in all but one game. So no Franz Wagner tonight for Orlando, but they do have Paolo Banchero back. No, who is out for? Why am I blanking? No,
Shaman and McBride.
Yeah, Shaman and McBride are the only 2 out. McBride's been out for 4 or 5 games. Shaman's been out for about 8. But it was because one of the games Karl Anthony Towns didn't play in the previous iteration. Anyway, there's no way we can go back and look at those other 3 games because there was something major off for each team in all of them. So it makes it a little bit hard. But these teams, we've seen them all play plenty of times before. We know what we're getting from New York. We know what we're getting from Orlando. Both teams are going to probably run an 8-man rotation tonight. So this is kind of where our value is in the game with the lower projected point total and the less sexy names. This is where it's more advantageous to try to figure out what's going on here. So what do you like from Orlando?
Yeah, it is interesting because like the total is 7 points lower for this game. And, really it's because the Thunder's total is so high. But it's odd to see the total be that much lower. And then really all the ownership's going to this game. And a lot of the top ROI lineups, I feel like, are more game stacking this game than taking more of the Spurs Thunder pieces. So I guess just one thing, if you are trying to get unique on a 2-game slate and you want to really hold your nose and ignore projections in a way that you probably don't want to. But game stacking, the other game, the Western Conference game, probably less owned because this one will be kind of owned everywhere. But on the Knicks side of the equation, I think Cat looks like a strong play. Fields at 32%. I'm getting 34. Really not a big stand there, but power forward center eligibility, certainly a big upside, and he will be less owned than Jalen Brunson. Brunson projects better, a little bit cheaper as well, but I think Cat certainly similar range of ceiling outcomes. And, going against Orlando, definitely a down-pace matchup. Can get where he needs to go, can get a position a little bit more as opposed to when the pace is a little bit higher. And sometimes the game can kind of flow away from him because of that. But Brunson is your chalk, Nick. And I think that's fair as well. Fields at 45%. I'm getting 42. So not, again, a big stand there. That's going to be the case for a lot of guys on the slate. But Brunson's been great on the year. Leads the team in usage at 31%, assist rate of 29. Overall putting up 1.2 fantasy points per minute, which is not as good as the 1.34 the Towns has put up. But in this spot, you do have Mitchell Robinson in for some amount of minutes. For Towns, playing any less amount of center overall, not a great thing. But Towns benefits from the fact that Mitchell Robinson not starting again today. It's Brunson, Bridges, Anunoby, Hart, and Towns again. I think for Brunson, the situation is always good no matter who's out there because he's leading the team in usage, getting a lot of assists and all that. The top 2 Emac, I feel like pretty strong here. Do you have any lean between Towns and Brunson for where you're getting exposure-wise?
So my initial thought was that I wanted to go to Towns first. I'm now leaning a little bit more towards Brunson just because I like the way it's looking, and I'll build some lineups out here in just a sec. I like the way it's looking when I go with Wemby and not SGA to try to get Brunson. It's thin, but that's my tiebreaker. We know. I mean, even though there's new coaches here, we know that. Well, we've seen it in all close games that they run out basically their main 6 guys for New York, and obviously Brunson and Towns are 2 of those guys that are the best fantasy producers / scorers. Hart will be in the mix because he can do a little bit of everything, and then of course we have Bridges, who just gets minutes no matter what. And if his shot is falling, then yay. If it's not, he still gets enough steals and blocks and assists that he won't really hurt you. But sorry, I derailed your question there. But of those core 4, I end up liking Brunson more now.
Okay.
And I thought it would be Towns because I usually gravitate towards the double-double, the guy closest to the basket who's going to get rebounds, etc. But I'm leaning towards Brunson in this one.
Yeah, and I think that's I'm on the same page as you too. And I think, going a bit further for sure, it seems like the field is also going to be on the same page with Brunson being the preferred guy of the top 4, top 5 as well. I think Anunoby is actually one guy I would like to talk about at a little more length because this has happened now in a couple slates lately with the NBA Cup where Anunoby is just priced at a range of power forward, who's really the only player that is playable in a lot of lineups. And as a result, I think he ends up being a little bit higher owned, but worked out last time out. My team that I mentioned finished the top 4-point play, had Anunoby and Bridges together. I don't expect that to be the case again today necessarily, but again, Anunoby's got a pretty good shot of making a winning lineup just because of the price point and the fact that there really isn't a power forward, 5 to 6K that grades out anywhere close to him. So I'm getting him 51%. He's actually my highest exposed Nick of the group, but all of them seem like they're worth, between 33 and 50% ownership. Anunoby, though, I think has a real reason to exist in as much as sometimes guys just make the lineups work, and at his price tag, I think Anunoby works well on DraftKings. But Emac, anybody you feel stronger about on FanDuel? I think it seems like maybe Towns slightly better play on FanDuel, but again, very efficient ownership on FanDuel.
Yeah, the one thing that always gets me on with Towns that I don't like him on FanDuel as much, he doesn't get defensive stats. And that's been a thing throughout his whole career. And the 3 points for blocks and steals it can be that extra difference maker. And where we're looking for every little advantage like we are today, that just makes me a little bit nervous that he doesn't have that upside. Doesn't mean he can't have a 4-stock game, but it's an unlikely outcome. Let's hit on the I meant to do Orlando, but let's look at the Knicks here. I had Orlando up. Sorry, I was trying to fix something behind the scenes. So if we look at the Knicks here, you can see that Brunson a little bit, or is the most popular of the Knicks, but just barely. Anunoby, well represented, the 5,900. I mean, as you mentioned, that's kind of a fun price point there for him. If we look over on FanDuel, we can see that they are all coming in a little bit similarly here to what they are in DraftKings, but a little more punitive there on Anunoby, which is changing his ownership significantly.
And Bridges, I don't think looks like a good play on DraftKings. On FanDuel, though, he does seem pretty underowned. I mean, 7% leverage on this slate for a shooting guard, small forward eligibility. I think Bridges probably a appreciably better play on FanDuel than DraftKings.
Indeed. All right, let's look at the last team here, and then I'll build out lineups, and then we'll do the super chats. Actually, I'm going to make an executive decision. I'm going to run some lineups here, but take us through the Orlando side here. Where do you think Banchero gets for his minutes? He went about 20.2, 24.5, and I think he was, at like 28 in the last game. So are we leaning 30, 32? 32 feels about right. Under the right conditions, maybe 35.
Yeah, I think the fact he got to 32 last game, definitely a good sign for him. Feels like, just knowing how these minutes tend to scale up. If he got to 34, 35, we're then pretty close to where his minutes would be normally anyway. I mean, I guess he was one of those guys that does sometimes get to like 38, 39, 40. But I think if he's in mid-30s, we feel pretty good about that number. And if he's just at 32, I think he's more playable today than he was last slate. I'm getting him actually more than the field right now, getting him at 45% ownership in my top 150. Field's at 40. What stands out for Banchero is going back to last year, he's had about a 36% usage rate without Franz Wagner. For comparison, this year he's at about 27%, having to share the ball even more with Franz out there. Suggs taking more usage away, even Anthony Black, but mostly Desmond Bane being out there, adding another mouth to feed that offense compared to KCP last year. Because Franz is out, though, all these guys now get kind of usage that seems more appropriate. And for Paolo Banchero, that's really important because he really needs to be getting the ball in his hands a lot more, getting more shots up, and playing enough minutes to get there. I think for him to make sense. So I think now at his price tag, the minutes expected for him, I think he does make sense. Desmond Bane, not really the spot, I think, to go chasing his last game too much. He went nuts that last time out. I think really still looks good, but not quite as good as some other guys. So I'm willing to move away from Bane a little bit more. I'm still getting him at 29%, Fields at 26, but he was getting in like every lineup for mine last time. Today, not so much the case for me. So a little bit of a scary thing here, but I'm getting the other Magic guys more than Bane. But the big chalk option here, and Suggs looks good. We could talk more about the Magic in more detail, but think the big chalk play is Anthony Black. He allows you to do a whole lot on DraftKings at his price tag. Played 34 minutes last game. Fields at 55%. I'm getting 60 and actually no, close to 70. Actually, it's 68% right now. I think that Anthony Black is a really important play here because number one, I do expect Bane to just be a little bit less of a usage dominant player than he was last time out. That means more opportunity for Black. But number two, he played 34 minutes last game. Like Anthony Black got really good run. He's cheap on a slate where we don't have a lot of mid-tier value. We don't have anybody who's cheap that actually looks good. So Emac, Anthony Black is my key player on DraftKings, and I don't know if he's the same play on FanDuel. I'm actually going to check that out right now.
He's actually not too bad. He was kind of the value cover guy I talked about in the article today, just because he has at least carved out a realistic role, and he's had 28 or more minutes in 5 of his last 6 games, and only 1 was where he was a starter. So he's even getting the minutes off the bench. The last game he was a spot starter. I kind of think he'll be in this. Well, I don't need to guess. I'll go look it up in just a second here. But I like him a lot. To end that thought here. You guys can see here, I'm trying to get Wembanyama. He was not coming up in what I was doing. So I am going and picking 10 lineups that I like here with him. And then that's going to be where he ends up on my FanDuel teams. I can do that by filtering on his name. And then I'm just going to do a quick favorite for another 140. And that will get me my 150. And we'll drop that. I'm accepting the negative ROI because that's just the kind of slate it is today. But that is the way you can get to Wemby. All right. Anything else you want to call out here? Otherwise, we got a couple super chats.
Yeah, I mean, just the Magic in general. I think this game overall eminently playable, but the Magic getting Wendell Carter a good amount above the field as well, getting him in 40%, Fields at 34 and change. De Silva getting at 43%, Fields at 35. Batatse, I'm still getting 25% of. I have him really poorly projected, just at like 15 and a half. Stochastic has him a little bit higher because there's no value on the slate. And he's 3,500. You're going to get Batatse probably a good amount as well. Frankly, you might get him a lot in the sim depending on what you're doing with stuff. So really all the Magic really good. Black is the one that I think the chalkiest, probably has the highest chances of being viable value. But I mean, really, Carter, De Silva, you'll get them. Batatse I don't feel great about, but you'll get them too. You'll get him too, rather.
Yeah, De Silva's coming in by default. He's mostly scoring dependent when I was building up my FanDuel lineups here, and especially he was popping up on the ones where I was trying to identify with Wemby. I didn't want him. I didn't like him in my article, but it's a function of you're not going to like probably 2 or 3 players on every roster you're building today. It's just kind of the way it is. And again, we've been so geared towards more games and more options. On DraftKings, we have 2 super chats here. Who are the 3 players you would like to be over the field on DraftKings?
The 3 players, I mean, the ones that I am over the field on right away would probably be Black. Just going through my exposures here. Hold on. Black, I'm over on De Silva in my final lineups here right now. And Anunoby over on as well. Again, I think like I mentioned, the price point for him, the positionality, I think is really important on the slate.
All right, let's see where I am. And then can you do your favorite top at each position on DraftKings? That is our other super chat.
Yeah, top at each position. Hold on, let me just resort everything again because I'm pulling
Anthony Black is definitely a priority.
Yes, yeah, I would say he is for sure. Let me just get Vegas totals too. Yeah, I would say a point guard, Anthony Black. You're with me on that?
Yes, most definitely.
Okay, and then hold on, let me just get this in. All right, and then at shooting guard, shooting guard would also be Anthony Black. Bane or Hart, I think they're pretty even for me. I don't know if you have a lean.
I would lean towards Bane. I just like that he has the access to more minutes without Wagner, and he is probably their second best scorer, even though he had a little bit of a rough start transitioning to his first season here in Orlando. But getting those opportunities, especially when Banchero was out, I think helped his curve and keeping his confidence and assimilating to the new team. So I think he is when the chips are down, I think they're going to go to him today.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Small forward, I would actually go De Silva here, though certainly getting good amounts of Jalen Williams and Bridges. De Silva, I think, because of the price tags coming up a lot for me.
I am good with that. He's going to come in up at one of the two positions. I like Ben Carroll. I want to be above the field on Ben Carroll here.
Okay, yeah, I support that. Power forward for me is Anunoby. I think that, again, just really, to me, that $5,900 price tag or whatever is he at? $5,900 price tag for him. You really have to either then go all the way down to Barnes, I personally have 10 fantasy points projected lower, or you have to go up to Holmgren, who I only have about 3.5 fantasy points higher. So to me, Anunoby in the field's there a good amount as well, I think, for that same reason. But I think on DraftKings, Anunoby is a very important player to be getting access to on the slate. So that's what I'm doing for that. And then for center for me on DraftKings, my highest exposed guy is Wendell Carter. I am getting Towns, not getting Wemby at all, getting Hartenstein less in the field. So I guess it's center to be Wendell Carter for me.
Yep, I would concur begrudgingly.
Not very exciting. He does gain a good amount in rates for Franz Wagner being out, so I don't think it's a bad thing for Wendell Carter, even though he's often not the most fun click. He seems to benefit really whenever any of the key Magic players are unavailable, but Wagner contributing a little bit, rebounds and assists, that flows a little bit more to Wendell Carter more than some other guys might.
All right, so I'm going to have to do the same thing here to get Wemby lineups because I didn't goose his him enough. So let's see. I'm going to go 4 lineups with him. So let's just take, in the interest of time, the top 4. And then I will select 46 others. That gives me my 50 lineups. And again, a couple of these are going to be negative ROI, but I am okay with that because that is just what is going to have to happen today to have Wemby.
What's your final Wemby exposure looking like?
4 out of 50 lineups. So what? Not 8%.
Quite.
Yeah. And then 10 out of 150 on FanDuel.
That's not bad. I mean, honestly, just getting any. I think if you're willing to, I won't even say eat the entries, but like, it's probably worth the upside. I just usually just follow my projections to like the letter, so that's why I'm not getting Wemby. Yeah, 2-game slate. If Wemby somehow plays more than expected, especially, could pay off.
Yeah, it's my thought is really it's one. I'm paying for some differentiation. I'm gonna have to thread the needle, but what am I paying? I'm playing about $200 on each side, so. What, $70 in entry fees on Wemby? I can live with it.
Yeah, that's the right way to view it too. I think sometimes people struggle with that, like where they view a player as like, oh, I'm fading this player. I have to like totally take him out. In reality, like, if I don't naturally get Wemby and running sims and projections and all that, I'm fine with it. But I do think when you are trying to just, be live and have a few looks and, and you're playing volume, enough volume like Emac in terms of the number of lineups, I think that's a helpful lesson in there for some people out there, perhaps.
Yeah, and again, this is one of those different slates where it's an early game. We don't have a ton of people watching, not a lot of crazy news, so it's just a chance to try to impart some. Because these are the questions we get in chat. It's like, don't ask me this question 5 minutes before lock. I can't type out the answer fast enough. So, I saw someone. Oh, who is Clarkson? How much Clarkson did I get? Oh, 26% on DraftKings. So I'm right worth the field. That was what somebody said with their nuke. Yeah, we weren't going to do the nuke tonight just because it take too much time of our already limited time on the show. But so Wemby ended up on 8% of my lineups. Wendell Carter, that was not where I wanted to go. I know I have a fair amount of Batadze. So his he's kind of like he can play alongside Wendell Carter, but I don't think we'll see much of it, but New York does tend to have Mitchell Robinson out there, etc. So there will almost always be a center on the floor for both teams, and that's sort of you're kind of with Batata. You're like, pretty sure I'm going to get whatever minutes Wendell Carter doesn't get. There's a chance Carter could get into foul trouble because we've seen him do it countless times before, but there's also a chance you only get 12 minutes of Batata, and you just kind of have to accept that. But I'm okay with going with him, which was not a comfortable thought this morning. But hey, it is what it is. And the field, I mean, 30%. The field's obviously recognizing that as well.
Yeah, I really do not like Batate as a play, but like I got him at 40 in my final numbers. Got Mitchell Robinson.
Oh, did you? Wow. There we go. Chris Spags. Nice.
I mean, it's really just the price tag and all of it. They are not well projected plays for me. But you know, when I get guys that don't project well, I'm just like, all right, well, I guess there's a reason coming in because it's not like my data's making them come in for some reason, and I should be worried about it.
Yeah. Did we get I just posted in chat. It's the standard New York starting lineup. I want to see if we got
the Magic were Suggs, Bane, Black, Banchero, Carter.
Oh God, that came out so long ago it wasn't even on my feed anymore.
Yeah, all the Sunday ones came in like right after that.
Yeah, that buried it. Okay, yeah. So it was just for those that were listening along. Yes, Anthony Black did end up getting the start. Gotta have him at 90% specs.
Well, it's funny. Like, so again, like the other slate, it's top of mind for you because number one, I won it. And at number two, Anthony Black was on it. I had Anthony Black in, I think 90% of my lineups. The one that won was the Anthony Black, no Anthony Black lineup, which that's the DFS. But I was really happy that I got one that was like, that did leverage against it a little bit. But yeah, Anthony Black was good in that slate too, but not good enough.
Yeah, he was at 98% till I capped it. I want a path to, oh dear God, twisted ankle 8 minutes in, right? It's like, well, then I got nothing to wait around for, except for my University of Washington Huskies that they're so good they get to play in the first bowl game of the season tonight.
Well, at least they're showing up for their bowl game, unlike some teams.
Hey, yeah, and we're just gonna take our ball and go home. What are your thoughts on that? Since we literally are locking in 30 seconds and there is no other NBA news.
Yeah, I mean, for college football bowls, like I get at this point, it's become it's honestly one of the worst examples of like capitalism run amok. Like, and I think those guys should get paid great, but it's now like gone too far where it's like the transfer portal is messing up, guys' ability to actually play for their teams down the stretch of both college basketball and college football. Guys like Lane Kiffin leaving early because he has to be there for the transfer portal too is bad. Like, and he's getting paid ungodly amounts of money to like fuck over his one team when we should have been able to see Ole Miss actually have a run with, the staff intact. So I think it's not great, but like, USC, there's a lot of bowl games too, where like I saw them win national championships in college, and then the bowl games after that meant so little to me. There's a player who's like has no attachment. I doubt you care that much about going to the Holiday Bowl or anything. So that's
would you want to go to the Bucked Up Bowl because that's where the Huskies are?
Hey, but honestly, if it means a lot for you to go to the bowl, great. I just think if that's just a bunch of mercenaries getting their checks from one of the biggest programs, more power to them not showing up.
This is I don't even know how is it sponsored? It's hosted by Gronk. Oh, this is awesome.
Well, it'll be a fun bowl for the players, if not prestigious.
The lifestyle brand Bucked Up. I have never heard of it until I just looked at it today. So clearly this must be for the younger crowd or the Wranglers out there. I don't know. I catch the occasional episode of Yellowstone, but I don't think I qualify as a Wrangler.
Yeah, no, the Bucked Up Bowl. I mean, it's not quite the Pop-Tart Bowl, but what is?
Oh, what about the Pull-On Weed Eater Bowl? That was always a classic.
The Duke's Mayo Bowl. I think people love doing the gross stuff with the mayo for that one.
Yeah, it's it's workout stuff.
Yeah, you gotta get bucked up.
Yeah, Racked is one of their amino acids. Woke is their their high stimulant something or other. 6-point creatine, right? The joke of how many points on a deer on antlers. Yeah, okay. Yes, I grew up in a hick town, so I know all of that. Eastern and Western count. Both my uncles actually were in for a while. I think they still are. We're in Boone and Crockett. Basically, it's like the Guinness Book of World Record for hunting and fishing. But they were hunting and fishing guides in Wyoming. So
that's pretty cool. Can you hunt and fish? Did you have you?
No, I mean I never went out with them, but we did when we were kids. More fishing, and we'd go plinking with 22s and beer bottles, and we'd go up to where the kids would party, gather all the beer bottles, take them to the spot where you could go safely shoot into the side of the hill.
Hey,
I still can't believe we're doing that. No, we weren't all. I think only one person had a license. Yeah, we were. This is just growing up in a hick town. So.
Hey, that's experience kids don't get these days with their tablets. That's what we always say.
Yeah, no, good times. Good times. All right, we are 2 minutes over, and it's Saturday, so we're going to get on out of here. But do not fret. We're back at 9:15 tomorrow. Full hours and hours of NFL DFS content up to lock, and then you're going to get the NBA or the NFL live before lock for Sunday Night Football. I'm going to go start writing the article for that because I want to have fun. But tell the kids where they can find you, Chris.
I'll be back tomorrow for that same Live Before Lock show. About 11:30, 11:40 p.m. Eastern is when a Live Before Lock show with Eric Lindquist kicks off. So come check me out for that. But check out my @SplashPlay Pod channel if you want. In particular, right now, NFL Week 15 must plays. I go through stochastic data, compare stuff around the industry, run some sims. So check that out on my @SplashPlay Pod channel. And of course, NBA as well, Monday to Friday at 2 p.m. if you check out the playlist on there too. So we're working hard, Emac, even though it's the holiday season, I feel like the grind does not stop with NFL and NBA still going for a few more weeks.
It's a conveyor belt of fun. With that, gamers, good luck.